Welcome to FolioWeb. In this fifth video in the Quick Start series, we're going to be talking about supplemental materials in more detail, specifically how to upload supplemental materials. As we said in video 4, the best source of advice on what materials to include in your file is your unit administrator, that is your department chair, school director, campus dean, or independent college dean. And that's a good idea to check with those individuals if you have any questions on what should be included in your file and what you should exclude. Once you've kind of made a decision of what to include, the process of uploading them is fairly straightforward, and we'll cover that in just a minute. The way we're presenting the order of this process is kind of representative of how we would have done things in a paper world. That is, you'd probably spend some time in anticipation of the deadline for presenting your file a few months ahead of time, kind of cleaning out your files, organizing your materials, deciding what to include and what to exclude. And you probably want to work in the same basic manner with FolioWeb. So the first step that you want to kind of engage in is to clean out your file cabinet and clean off your hard drive, organize your materials, and decide what goes in and what stays out. And you want to scan your printouts. Again, get some help with that if you need it from your departmental staff, but probably at this point you're used to, as many people are, scanning materials and sending email to students instead of printing out, not only in this day of low budgets, but also in our sense that students are well equipped electronically, and there's really a waste of paper and resources to make a lot of copies of stuff. We can just scan it and email it to folks, and it's really the same process. You'll just scan files and email them to yourself, and then you have the files digitized and ready to go. You want to save your files, your digitized material, in standard file formats: PDF for text materials or text and images, JPEG for pure images, MP3 for sound, and MP4 for video are the best recommendations at this point. If you have more exotic files, you really probably want to try to convert it into one of those. And a good sort of non-exotic file, but one to think about a little bit, is the Word .doc file. And you might say to yourself, well, gosh, everybody has Word. Well, not everybody has Word, and not everybody has the ability to open a .docx, for example, which is the Word 2007, 8, and 10, and 11 file formats. So you want to be a little careful in assuming things are ubiquitous that in fact aren't. But the 4 files here are basically built into every operating system, the ability to open those, and they're very safe to include. So be a little careful and don't use something that's a little more exotic. Even if the person you know for sure everybody has Word and everybody's happy with that, well, even little things like fonts can make a big difference in how things are presented. Fonts and margins, and different versions of software will open files differently. So stick with these 4 sort of standard file formats, and you will probably serve yourself best. After you've saved your hard drive files as standard file formats, you want to be sure that you rename those files in ways that are more web friendly. And this is something that you may not be used to, but frankly the web is much more restrictive in how it wants to deal with file names than your local computer is. And this causes some frustration with users, and you may have seen these strange web addresses that have things like %20% in them. And without boring you with too much detail, the idea there is that if the web browser can't understand the file name, it substitutes some standard characters. And unfortunately that causes problems. It causes broken links, and it causes miscommunication and all kinds of stuff. I mentioned %20% because that's what web browsers will substitute for the space. So if you have spaces in your name, chances are it'll work, but it's just risky. And it's much safer to just eliminate the space from your file names. So the rule that is imposed on you with supplemental materials in FolioWeb is eliminate punctuation with the lone exception of the underscore. So if you really need to have spaces between words just for your own readability, substitute the underscore for spaces. But do not include, especially do not include, things like the pound sign, the @ sign, ampersand, or the killer is period. You don't want to use that, and lots of people do name their files with periods on their local computer, and that's fine. It's just not going to work on the web. So keep your file names short, without punctuation or spaces, and yet long enough to be somewhat descriptive so you know it's there. So things like letter.pdf, great file name because it's short and no spaces, but it's completely nondescript. So a good file name is long enough to be descriptive, short enough to be easy to type, and has no punctuation marks of any kind besides the 1 period you get between the file name and the file extension. That's required, but no other punctuation is allowed. So please be careful with that. Again, underscores are fine, but everything else is to be avoided. So the idea of your workflow here is you've gone through all of your materials, both printouts and digital, You've organized those, decided what goes into your file, where you're going to kind of put things, what category it fits in. You've got things named cleanly, well organized, perhaps in folders on your computer. You've spent some time getting organized digitally the same way you probably would have spent that time getting organized with a 3-ring binder or file box. Now the last step is to upload files, and frankly this is the easy part. The hard part is going through the materials and getting organized, and that's hardest for most of us. So here I am out at my desktop, and I just have a few files to demonstrate the uploading process today. I have a fake article, a letter, a certificate here, another recommendation letter, a pile of teaching evaluations, and then a sample Vita saved as a .doc file for a subsequent video. So these are my very truncated list of files that I've organized and named. And you might notice here that I've used what's called camel case. That is uppercase mixed with lowercase, separated again by uppercase. So it kind of goes up and down like the humps of a camel case. And that's a really good way of naming files that makes them much more readable than sort of a string of all uppercase or lowercase letters. And it also gets me away from having to feel like I need punctuation marks, because I don't. I can use camel case or I can use the underscore just fine. So I could do, for example, here cert underscore comp. That's fine. But cert space comp is something I want to try to avoid. Sometimes users will do things like cert comp number 1. This is a really bad file name for the web because the #, the octothorpe, has special meaning on the internet, and you want to avoid that, as does an extra period. An extra period will break FolioWeb. It'll see this as a double extension, and it's just not going to work at all. So please just heed the call here and avoid punctuation marks except for a structure like this. Camel case and underscore is great. So here are the few sample files that I'm going to use to practice the uploading of supplemental materials. So I'm going to go into FolioWeb, and I'm going to log in as our old friend Jane Faculty. And I'm going to go to the My Portfolio tab because, as we said earlier, this is the most commonly used function for candidates. And although I'm on a very zoomed in screen here, I'm going to scroll down and just get a quick sense of the real estate on this page here. The second link I have here is upload portfolio files, supplemental review, promotion, excellence files. And if I keep reading, it's going to say, use this page to transfer files from your computer to your directory on FolioWeb. Use this function for your supplemental materials. Don't use this function, it's going to say, for your official materials. So reading the screen here will help you understand which of the links to use. Some candidates click on the first thing here. An edit portfolio is great for a multi-purpose sort of generic portfolio. But again, the screen will tell you what it's for. It says faculty submitting review or RPT files should use the upload pages below, sort of implying not to use this one. So let's say don't use this one if you are producing a portfolio for reappointment, tenure, promotion, or review. It's not the right function. You want to use the upload functions. Your portfolio will be generated automatically based on what you upload if you are a candidate for a personnel action. If you want to create a portfolio for other purposes, by all means feel free to use that one. But for your personnel actions, don't. We're going to come right back to manage directories, files, and links in our video on hyperlinking. A very, very useful function here. You probably won't necessarily need to bother too often with display RPT, review file contents. That will actually show you your portfolio as it's being built. We've already seen how to manage your faculty personnel actions. Edit your FIS Vita is something that we're not going to be discussing in this video. It's not part of FolioWeb. And upload official review promotion excellence award is the second of the two upload files. And again, if you read the screen, it's going to help you with understanding what the difference between the two is. Use this page to upload official review. To upload supplemental, use the link above. So the function of this video is to help us with supplemental materials, and that's the link that we're going to be using. The official review documents link is what we use in the next video on uploading official documents. So we're going to be practicing uploading supplemental material, so we're going to click right here, and it's going to warn us again not to use this function to upload official materials. It's pretty easy to accidentally upload a Vita here, and unfortunately if you do, you'll have no place to hyperlink anything to, nobody will ever see your portfolio, and you'll have all kinds of problems. So it's going to warn you again, and we'll keep going. So now there's a lot of stuff on the screen here, and let me just tell you to keep it very, very simple. Keep it very simple by leaving things alone. You can absolutely place things in different folders, but my recommendation to you is don't. Some people tend to over-organize, and that's a good thing in many ways, but over-organizing creates longer file names, more complexity, and more opportunities for mistakes. So my advice to you is leave it alone. Leave it as the main directory. If you feel like you really have to organize stuff, you might want to choose to put stuff into, so for example here, into NTT Associate or something like that. But really the best thing to do, review in this case for Jane's hypothetical activity here, but really the main directory is the best place to put your supplemental materials. Your main directory may then get a little long, but that's in some ways an advantage. You know where everything is. You won't be confused with I think I put it over here, I think I put it over there. Keep things simple. You can create new directories. You can organize stuff on FolioWeb. So if you wanted to, for example, create a letters directory or a publications directory or teaching directory, you could do all that. And it works easily. I'm not going to demonstrate it to you because my advice to you is just to keep it simple. You will have much less problems down the road if you just leave this alone. If you wanted to, just type in the name here and it'll automatically put your file in the new directory. You can also use this screen to rename your files. Per my earlier admonition, you could remove your spaces and funky punctuation marks here. Much easier and smarter to do directly on your operating system, on your Windows or your Mac OS 10 something. You can do all that stuff here, but my advice to you is, again, just keep it simple. And if you keep it simple, it's fast, easy, and virtually foolproof. If you are replacing a file because you know it's been updated, you can save yourself a warning message and just click on Yes, Replace. But you want to probably avoid this whole link descriptive information thing. This is for our generic portfolio. It's not necessary and won't appear on your faculty RPT work. So you can use this if you like, again, but it's just not necessary and it's just time consuming. So skip that part. In essence, I've talked a lot here, but if all you need to do for this function is just click on the Browse button. Find the file, mine are out at the desktop, in a folder called RPT Files, and I'm going to upload this thing called Article. Now, just because article, as I mentioned, is just really a bad name, I'm going to use the renaming function here, and I'm going to rename it as 2012 J Faculty, and it's an article about clickers. And I have to be sure to add the extension, so I have to add the .pdf to it. So again, I don't have to do this. I'm just choosing to do this to rename the article because it was so generic here. So now I've done that, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click Continue. And the file is uploaded, and this screen tells me that it was originally named article. You can see that it's given me the whole hyperlink here, and it's a good idea to click on the hyperlink to test it to make sure it's been uploaded correctly. And there's my article. Good to go. A good fake article produced in Microsoft Word and saved as a PDF. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this window down. Now, it tells you a lot of stuff here, but I can just click Continue and keep going here. This hyperlink is also going to appear on the Manage screen that we'll see in a subsequent video, but this is the exact hyperlink that I'm going to copy and paste into my Vita to link to this article from my Vita when I get to that point. So very, very straightforward, but we're going to delay this until we get to the video on creating hyperlinks. So what we've seen here is a quick way to upload supplemental materials. Let's try that again. I'll go to My Portfolio, Upload Portfolio Files, ignore the warning, leave it alone, and this time I won't rename it. I'm going to upload this thing called CertComp, which is a dumb old form. Click on OK and scroll down and click Continue. And there's my certificate uploaded, and we're good to go again. So I'm going to close that down and keep going. On average, it takes about 10 seconds to upload a PDF file in FolioWeb, and that is mostly determined by the size of the file and your bandwidth. If you live in some place that doesn't have, and you don't have access to high-speed internet connection, through like a cable or DSL connection, I would strongly recommend that you save yourself the frustration and come to campus, to your local campus, and perform this function on a Saturday when you have nothing else to do. Get all your stuff uploaded at once. Probably, this whole activity of scanning stuff at the BizHub is a good Saturday morning activity where nobody is around and nobody's hassling you to get in front of you on the copier. So you can just kind of work in peace, get all your stuff scanned, organized, uploaded all in a couple of hours, and you'll have the peace of mind of having it all done in an easy way of working through it. So really about 10 seconds per document depending on your connection and length. So a frequently asked question here is, how big can things be? Can I upload an enormous file, a huge video file? And the answer is yes. There is no limit, no technological limit. There's a practical limit. There's a timeout that takes place, and different parts of FolioWeb have slightly different timeouts, but they range between 20 and 40 minutes. So if you're uploading a very large file from a slow connection, you can encounter a timeout. So the only place that's really going to be relevant to you is probably if you're uploading a large video. And frankly, there are better ways of dealing with video. If you have a question about working with video, please just email support@folioweb.com and we'll respond to you about some better strategies. And the better strategy at Kent State is to use KS YouTube. With the exception of video, you're not going to have any problems with this limit if you are working from campus especially, and even if you are working with video from campus, you're not going to have any problems. But a slow connection at home working with video is unlikely to make the timeout. So that's the only place that you'll have a problem here. So you can see if you're like most people and you have something like 30 to 50 files, you really are at just a few minutes of getting this whole thing uploaded very quickly. So as you saw, the basic process for uploading files is pretty straightforward and pretty painless. The process of getting things organized in preparation for that uploading process is a little less so. It takes a little bit of organization and a little bit of discipline to get things scanned, organized, and renamed so that you won't encounter any problems when you sit down to upload. So a good workflow, again, is to spend some time in advance getting that stuff organized and then to hit the uploading all at once and check each file as you upload to make sure that it's good to go, and all your supplemental materials will be there and in very good shape for the hyperlinking activity that's the subject of the 7th video in the series. So our next video is going to be dealing with the other kind of file, and that's uploading official files to FolioWeb.